Mr. Braley for questions.
Mr. Press, do you know a Jennifer Fox?
I don't know. I don't. If you could put some more text.
Do you know a Jennifer Fox who works in Chrysler's Washington, D.C. office?
Yes.
And
I don't know her last name.
All right.
Jennifer.
I assume if she uses an email address that ends in Chrysler.com, that's an employee of Chrysler.
I assume yes.
Are you aware that Chrysler is attempting to convince Chrysler dealers who have not been terminated to engage in a lobbying effort to point out the positive aspects of the consolidation through bankruptcy that has been going on?
I'm aware of the fact that that because of the publicity that's been provided, that there are 2,391 dealers who have benefited and are dealers and give to Little League and are long-time, 100-year-long dealers who want an opportunity to also make their position known, sir.
So are you aware that Chrysler has been sending out talking points under a heading Key Messages memo that says things like Chrysler LLC made the appropriate business decision to move forward with a dealer network that overall can be thriving and profitable, and the automobile industry cannot support the number of dealers that currently exist, and dealers have known that Chrysler wanted to consolidate dealerships and locate all three brands under one roof. They started the process more than 100 years ago, and we understand that the process to evaluate the dealers was a thorough process based on data-driven metric. And as a dealer moving forward with the new company, I plan to purchase some of the eligible inventory of the rejected dealers. Were you aware that was going on?
That's all in our testimony submitted to you. It's part of the speech. We've had consistent communication of those points. The number of dealers asked that they would like to be able to make their voice known as well through this, and that was provided.
Let me just ask you about the one point that dealers have known. This has come up during the testimony today, that Chrysler wanted to consolidate dealerships for more than 10 years. If that is truly the case, sir, then can you tell us why that didn't happen in the numbers we've seen until this bankruptcy arose?
It has been happening, yes, sir. Great question. I can understand why you'd ask that. The fact of consolidation has been an ongoing process for a number of years. In fact, a year and a half ago when I came, we actually had meetings and dealers were identified. They know which dealers were going to go forward, which locations would be going forward. We gave them a toolbox of things in terms of real estate, of tax planning, to facilitate those discussions and transactions, and some of them did.
Yeah, but you have to agree with me that the volume of closed dealerships over that 10-year period paled in comparison to the announcement that grew out of the bankruptcy. Well, isn't that true?
That's because the bankruptcy was caused by the fact that we were made to support specific vehicles for standalone dealers, and the fact that we are a failed enterprise, that didn't get carried forward. A new company was formed that's going to go forward.
And I understand that, and I only have 5 minutes, so I'm going to move on to something else. You talked in that statement about these data-driven metric. Is that the plan, the criteria that Mr. Dingle and Mr. Barton requested? Will those contain the data-driven metrics that you've just identified in this memo?
Yes, we have submitted in our testimony what the criteria is, and we'll provide additional data as requested.
Now, in your testimony before the Senate Commerce Committee, you said that Chrysler loses over $1 billion annual in lost sales opportunities because of underperforming dealers. And Mr. Henderson, you claimed in similar testimony that dealers add $1,000 of cost to every vehicle. So my question for both of you is, do you have financial analysis that was conducted before the decision was made to terminate these dealer franchises that supports those allegations you made in your testimony? Mr. Press?
Yes, we have the analysis of the sales situation, and that does exist. We knew what the number was.
And was that submitted as part of your testimony?
Of the apps
for today's hearing. Do we have that information?
You do not have it by dealer.
Can you provide it to the committee?
Well, that's there's confidentiality and data that we receive from dealers.
All right. Well, I know that there are means to redact information to protect confidentiality and still provide the information that I'm seeking. If there's a way to arrange that, would you agree to provide it to the committee?
Yes, as long as it can be done within protecting the dealer's rights.
All right. Well, the committee, I'm sure, will be happy to work with you. Mr. Henderson, same question for you. Does GM have the data to support the statement that you made that these dealers are costing your company $1,000 per vehicle?
Sir, as I mentioned in my testimony, we have an overall cost of $1,000 per vehicle. That cost is articulated in the same package that we submitted last night. It's approximately $2 billion, 2 million units.
And do you have the underlying data that was used to make that calculation, and is it in the materials that we have received?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so you can identify that for the committee.
On page 9, sir.
Second to last page.
All right, and so on that page where you made the calculation, do you have supporting documentation for the conclusions that show the portion for dealer margin, incentives paid directly to dealers, standards for excellence, and on and on? I mean, those numbers aren't just published somewhere as a standard cost factor associated with the sales of each vehicle, are they?
What I outlined in my testimony, sir, is these are costs which over time have come into our structure to provide direct support to dealers. Over time, those are not identified per individual dealer because, in fact, they're provided to all of our dealers. But to the best of our knowledge, our best-in-class competitors do not supply that same sort of support.
Well, Mr. Chairman, my time has expired, but it seems to me there's still plenty of unanswered questions that the committee needs to explore on this subject.
Thank you, Mr. Braley. With asking that.